Bonjour everyone, we're joined here by Jude's Journey. We're going to go through Newcastle and Aston Villa's combined 11. We play each other tomorrow night. Jude, how are you feeling about the game?
Yeah, I'm feeling all right. I'm looking forward to football. He's obviously back. I've had a few games now, and it's a must-win for Aston Villa. So I'm hoping Aston Villa come out the other end with it with a win.
Just realised I've got claret hair.
Is that a good look thing for Villa, maybe?
Not really. Quarantine boredom, mate. That's what it is. We've just done a video over on Jude's channel for a preview. I'll leave the link in the description below. Everybody go and check that out.
Thank you.
We've just discussed the lineup prediction for tomorrow night, so we're going to combine them now. So, in terms of goalkeeper, who you got in your lineup?
I'm going to go with. I think De Bruyne's had a great season for Newcastle, and Villa's goalkeeper position has been a bit. There's been three-man goalkeepers this season, and we haven't had a number one. We had Heaton for the majority of the season. And, you know, he was the standard number one until he got injured. And then since then, really, we haven't really had a number one. We've had Pepe Reina, who's, you know, made mistakes at time. And then Oyan Neeland, who's come in more recently. So for me, I think there's no other question than De Bruyne. He's had I hope I'm saying that right. He's had a brilliant season over Newcastle. And I don't know, would you agree?
Yeah, I'm pleased we don't have to argue with that one. For me, well, if you ask, I think most people around, particularly Newcastle fans, but I think around the Premier League, people would say that Dubravka is probably the best goalkeeper outside the top six. When he first joined, he was a little bit ropey. I remember his debut, he was man of the match in a game against Man United, and most fans had never even heard of him. In his first season or two, he was prone to the odd mistake, but this season he's been rock solid, and I think if it wasn't for Dubravka this season, some of the saves he's made, he's actually kept us out of the relegation scrap. As I said in your video before, we're sitting in 12th now. If it wasn't for Dubravka, we'd be closer to where you are. We'd be down there along the likes of Brighton and Bournemouth. So thankfully, because of Dubravka, he's kept us up. So yeah, I don't think that's up for debate. Dubravka's definitely in there. Right back, who you got? We've got three.
I'm going to go with Freddie Gilbert for Villa. I think he had a pretty decent season as an attacking fullback, as a French fullback, and he's been our number one fullback. So for me, I'm going to go with Freddie Gilbert. I'm not sure if you agree.
To be honest, I don't really know all that much about him. I haven't seen a lot of him this season, but I do know Newcastle have been rotating. At the minute, Javier Manquillo is our right back, and he deserves that spot. He's been very, very good in the time he's been in. He's fought off competition from DeAndre Yedlin and Emil Kraft. The game before the game before Sheffield, which was Southampton, the last game before lockdown, I thought he was poor in that game. So he's very inconsistent. Manquillo, when he's on a good day, we love him. He's fantastic on a good day. But yeah, he has got that inconsistency. So if you want to put your guy in there, we'll put that in.
Okay, cool.
In terms of centre-back, this is probably... What are you saying?
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, in terms of centre-back, I think that's our strongest position. We've got 6 more than capable centre-backs that we've rotated with across the season. You play with 3 centre-backs as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's rotated throughout the season. I've mentioned that Smith doesn't really... It's strange, really. We've had the whole season and we've had the lockdown, and you don't really seem to know his best system that really works, so that's concerning from a Villa point of view. Yeah, but yeah, we've had a number of formations this season, but yeah. So
from the outside looking in, I would probably say that Tyrone Mings is your best centre back. I think a lot of Newcastle fans wouldn't be opposed to Mings coming in. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's our main leader. He's at the back. He's got great a competition with Jack Grealish for a captaincy, in my opinion. And he's just that he organises that defence. And there's been rumours over the past couple of days with a lot of top clubs coming in from him. So who knows what's going to happen with Tyrone Mings? But for me this season, and obviously last season, he's been our number one centre back, and he's a centre back that we've been wanting for a very long time.
Yeah, so I'll compromise and put Tyrone Mings in there. I think we've got a similar centre-back in Jamal Lascelles. He's a great leader. I think if it wasn't for Jamal Lascelles' captaincy ability, I don't really know if he would. Like, he's the first name on the team sheet, but if it wasn't for the armband, we're not
Looks
so
like
sure that he
Tyrone Mings.
would be. Yeah, but like we've got a few others. I think like Federico Fernandez has been outstanding this season. I think Fabian Schär's potentially our best centre back. We've also got Florian Lejeune, who's been unfortunate with injuries over the last couple of seasons, and your old boy Kieran Clark.
Yeah.
I'll let you take your pick. Who's going alongside Tyrone Mings?
I think Lascelles, mate. Like you say, he's the first team. He's the first man on the team sheet for you guys, and I think he's a great centre back. And I think a partnership of them two would make a great partnership if that was a thing.
They would be solid, to be fair, particularly like leading from the back, two worthy captains as well. I think that would be if that was England set up, you wouldn't really argue. Yeah, it would. Left back. This has been a strange position for us this season. We brought in Jetro Willems at the start of the season, who was brilliant, and I would argue with you to put him in, but his season ended in January, and we brought in Danny Rose to compete. It was like, how do you say Danny Rose this season?
I think he's been all right, to be fair. I'll be honest, I haven't watched much of him, but from the outside looking in, it looks like a experienced signing that maybe from a Villa point of view we've lacked, and that's maybe been the difference between the two sides this season. So I look at Matty Targett who is our number one left back, and yes, he offers a lot going forward attacking, but defensively sometimes he often gets caught out a lot. So for me, from my perspective, I'd go with Danny Rose just purely because of that experience head.
Yeah, I think that is a good thing. I think if you offered Danny Rose to us a year, 2 years, even 3 years ago, we'd be over the moon with that. Like, we probably wouldn't even believe it. As you say, it would be a huge coup. But he was frozen out of the Tottenham side earlier this season. I think his last competitive game was the Champions League final last year until he signed for us. I think he came in slightly unfit. He was possibly carrying a little bit extra timber due to not playing so much. And I know he struggles with mental health and certain other issues. So, he just needs game time. He needs a bit of momentum. Just before lockdown, he started to have some great performances. And the game on Sunday, he started a bit shaky. First 20 minutes, he looked like he was going to be back to his old unfit self. But as the game played out, he was starting to pick it back up again. So would you take Danny Rose over Targett? Yeah,
definitely. I think, like I said, the experience is what Villa are crying out for now.
Yeah. We'll go with a old-fashioned 4-4-2. I'm a stickler for an old-fashioned 4-4-2, me. So we'll go on to right wing. Who would you stick on the right?
Oh, right wing. I'm going to go with Ali St. Maximin. Does that work?
Yeah.
Ali St. Maximin.
He's fantastic. I think anybody in the Premier League would be lucky to have Alan St. Maximin. Earlier on in the season, I think his end product wasn't quite there. We did hear that from fans of the French league. He was a good player, but no end product, which we did see early on. But as his comfort comes in, I think he's an absolute great player, and I think we're worried that he'll not be around for long, particularly if Mike Ashley stays as our owner. I think we've got him for just under 20 million. With performances like that, any team from around Europe will come in and double that easily. So, we're a bit afraid that he's not going to be around for long.
Yeah, as a neutral looking in, it's great to see the progression of Ali St. Maximin. Like you say, at the start of the season, a lot of fans doubted him, and we did lack that end product. But over the course of the season, and maybe who knows, the lockdown could have helped him out a lot. He's been a great player and a playmaker for you guys, hasn't he?
Yeah. He's our best player, hands down. It's been a long time. It's probably been since Hatem Ben Arfa, since we've had a player that gets you off your seat every time he gets the ball, and he's got a bit of space in front of him. Like, we're on the edge of our seat. Like, what's he going to do? Because he's pace and he's trickery. It's so thrilling for us to watch because we haven't had anyone like that for almost 10 years. St. Maximin's fantastic. We'll go into centre mid. Pick 2 centre mids. We've got a few options here in John Joe Shelvey, Isaac Hayden, Nabil Bentaleb, and Seanan Matty Longstaff. Who's in yours?
I'm going to go with Super John McGinn in one centre mid role. I just think the workload he offers you is second to none at the moment. Yes, he is coming back from injury, but if you're basing it off the whole season, then He's a top quality player, and a lot of sides will want John McGinn in their side purely because of his work rate and the amount of tackles he brings to the side. And then on the other centre midfield, I want some advice from you because I was a bit stumped.
Yeah, I'll just touch on John McGinn quickly there. Like, we've been linked with him, providing a takeover happens, because Mike Ashley
Steve
probably
Bruce
wouldn't buy him.
there as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we'd be quite happy to bring John McGinn in, particularly if you get relegated. What are your worries that he's going to be a Villa player next season?
Yeah, definitely. I think there'll be a number of players this season that if we go down and mention Tyrone Mings, John McGinn and Jack Grealish, I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment. They'll all be players that will be looking to go out the door. And, you know, John McGinn would be a great suit for Newcastle if he was to go there. And if a takeover does happen for you guys and Steve Bruce remains the manager, then I think Steve Bruce was the man who brought him in. And I think he knows how to play him. So he could work well at Newcastle. But hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Well, I disagree. Yeah, so put John McGinn in there alongside. It's tough. It's got to be between John Joe Shelvey, who again is another very inconsistent player. I think on his day he could be one of the best centre mids in the Premier League. His passing range is incredible, but sometimes he just gets lost. He tends to only have one great game every 3-4 months, and it's very frustrating. Sometimes he just looks like he's not interested. He's just heads somewhere else. But every so often you can have these performances where we think, oh, you're verging on world class. And it's so frustrating that he doesn't have them games more often. So to put alongside John McGinn, I would probably put in Isaac Hayden, who is a massively, massively underrated player. I think he deserves more credit than he gets. Sunday's game against Sheffield United was a prime example of that. He's just no nonsense, just typical defensive midfielder, gets stuck in.
That's what you want in your team,
hard in the
especially
tackles.
Like a team like
Yeah, I think he could be a great captain for somebody one day. He's got a great mindset. I know he was unsettled at Newcastle a while ago and he wanted to leave. He openly said, I don't want to be here. He was having troubles with his girlfriend and his child, I think. He was having family issues. With Villa
at some point.
Yeah, he just wanted to be down south, which, coming from a personal point of view, it wasn't the club's fault. It was a personal thing. You can't really stand in people's way. And some performances after that, he was shite, to be honest. There was one game at the start of last season against Cardiff. He came on as a substitute and was sent off straight away. He just looked like he didn't want to be there. But since coming back into the team, he's a fan favourite, and we want to see him on that team sheet every week because you know what you're going to get. He gives 110% every week, and players like him just don't come around that often. We could talk about John Joe Shelvey, but due to inconsistencies, you can't put him ahead of Isaac Hayden because he does give everything in every single game. Yeah,
the only thing that comes to mind to me from a neutral point of view about John Joe Shelvey is his brilliant goal against Manchester City this season. That might just be because of my thoughts, but I think going back to the two midfielders of Isaac Hayden and John McGinn, I think those two could really work really well together. And the work rate of them both is just 100% every game. So I totally agree with you there, mate.
Yeah, McGinn's a bit more attacking as well, isn't he? He can carry the ball forward, and Isaac Hayden can be the one just holding back and just let McGinn run in a free roll.
Yeah, he'll run 5,000 miles for you, mate.
Yeah,
John McGinn.
Left wing, Jack Grealish.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think this season Villa have struggled with wingers, and if we're going off a 4-4-2 formation, then Jack Grealish has to be on the left wing. I think the reason why we struggled though this season is because we've struggled with to have two very consistent wingers. But if you put Alisson Maximin in there, who's you could argue is a similar sort of player to Jack Grealish is. Jack Grealish is draws fouls to the team and wins free kicks on the edge of the box and is a very much playmaker type of person. I think Jack and Alisson Maximin could really work well on those two flanks.
Yeah, definitely. Causing both sides as well.
Problems. Yeah,
they're both comfortable on either the right or the left as well. So yeah, that's great. I think the only Newcastle option we would have is potentially Matt Ritchie, but I know a lot of fans would also probably say Miguel Almiron. But from
what's he been like? What's Almiron been like? I remember when we played you at Villa Park, he was struggling to get into the team. Yeah, well, not into the team, but he was struggling to be consistent enough.
I remember that game. I don't think he was on the ball. I think Sir Maximin was on the left, and I'm sure like Villa like doubled and tripled up on Sir Maximin, and Almiron was just standing over on the right hand side in no man's land, like he's like just nobody was even on him, but nobody was getting him the ball. It was all coming through Sir Maximin, but that was in the old formation, and Almiron was played out of position. This is why I would 100% give you Jack Grealish. Not that I would probably argue much anyway, but Almiron's not a winger. He's a number 10. He's so much better in the hole. And it took about a year for us to see him there. And a lot of Newcastle fans, I think, were getting very frustrated by him because he was a club record signing at the time, which has now been broken. But it took him a year to score. He didn't get a goal. I don't think he even notched up his first assist until like almost a year later. So like we were just getting very, very frustrated. Some of the chances he was having in front of goal were clear cut. He was missing simple chances. So we were almost ready to wash our hands with him, thinking that's a failed signing. But when he's used in his right role in the number 10, he's absolutely quality. We're seeing that again on Saturday. If he gets the ball in the middle of the park, he's frightening. He just likes that open space. He can cut into the left or the right-hand channels, look for Sir Maximin on the overlap, play a ball in. He played a great ball into Joe Linton on the counter-attack on Saturday, and he got the assist for Joe Linton's goal from out on the left on Sunday, sorry. But yeah, like Almiron is class, but if we're going to play a 4-4-2, you can't put him in on the wing ahead of Grealish and Sir Maximin, no way. The only other option I could think of is play one striker with Almiron in behind. But yeah, I'll give you Jack Grealish on the left, and we'll go into two strikers, which you can pretty much have your choice here.
Well, this is the hardest one for me because I think we're sort of in a similar position in terms of strikers, because at the start of the season we brought in Wesley, you brought in Joe Linton for Joe Linton was obviously the more expensive one in 45 million. 45 million, is that correct?
About 40, I think. Yeah.
40 million, yeah. So, that was a very high price tag, and he's only scored how many goals? One, two?
Two.
Two goals,
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, 2 goals. So, as for Wesley, he was a cheaper option, and he has scored more goals. Don't get me wrong, but he's obviously injured. He was injured in January, so does that take him out of the team? But then at the same time, we brought in Samatta, who before lockdown in January, he scored a couple of goals. I think he scored 2 goals before lockdown, and then after lockdown, like I said, these first couple of games, he hasn't been in the team. It's been more Kiernan Davis. I don't think Kiernan Davis should be in the team. He's only started these past 2 games. I don't know, mate. It's such a sticky one. I'm going to go Ali Samatta just purely because I think he's got that little bit more experience. He's obviously played in the Champions League, but then so is Wesley as well. So, I think he's got more experience, and I think he could work well with Jack Grealish and John McGinn.
Yeah.
Because of the way he plays, whereas Wesley's sort of your number 9 back to the goal sort of player.
Yeah, I think we were linked with both of them players, Wesley in the summer and Samatta coming into January. It was a bit of a kick in the stomach to see Samatta go to you guys because we were absolutely desperate for a number 9. We thought we had one in the summer in Joe Linton, but I don't know what your view of Joe Linton is from the outside, but we know that he's not a striker. Slapping the big Newcastle number 9 shirt on his back was a huge mistake.
There's a lot of pressure at Newcastle when you take that number 9 role. Same with Villa.
Yeah, especially being a club record signing as well. Club record signing, number 9. But he's not a number 9, so he's had unfair criticism, Joe Linton. So yeah, to see Samatta go and us like trying to survive the rest of the season only with Joe Linton, it was tough to take. So I know Wesley's been injured, but I think Wesley started the season really, really well. I think it's a shame that he did get that injury. So for me, I would probably put both of them up top if fit, Samatta and Wesley, if we're going to play 2 strikers. Yeah, like as I mentioned about Joe Linton. Like, what is your view of Joe Linton?
I think the price tag was very, very big for him. And, it's always, like you say, it's always going to be a pressure when you bring in a player of that calibre to Newcastle and give him the number 9 shirt. Because, from the outside looking in it, Newcastle's a massive club and there's no doubt about that. And to give him the number 9 role is a huge gamble. And it's obviously a gamble that hasn't played off. paid off. Sorry. So I don't. Do you give him time? I mean, you've given him, a whole season plus a lockdown, and maybe the fact that he scored against Sheffield United, is this a new Joe Linton we're seeing? Who knows?
Yeah. What I will say from the inside is Joe Linton just simply isn't a striker. If you look at clips of him from
something just come back to me about, I saw a clip on Twitter about the first chance against Sheffield United.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be putting those away.
Yeah, like that just goes to show you that he's not a striker. He's not a comfortable out and out number 9. If you see clips of him from Hoffenheim or look into how he played in Hoffenheim's style, he was never ever a striker. He played like across a front 3 usually on the left hand side, or he was partnered up with somebody. Like what Joe Linton's good at is he's good at coming deep and he's strong. He likes to get the ball, hold it up, and play it off to somebody else. I think that's
very much like what Wesley's like, and I don't understand why we haven't adopted a 2 up top formation when he was there. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think like with Joe Linton, like I think his highest goal tally before coming into the season was like 7 goals. So that shows he's not a prolific striker. But like he's been playing as a lone striker in a very defensive formation. He's had no help. He's had nobody around him, which is what he needs. He needs good buddies around him. And just no chances. I honestly don't think Shearer would have a great amount of goals in our team the way we played earlier in the season. Like coming into the hardest league in the world. He's only 22, didn't speak the language. He didn't come over with his family. He was alone in a strange country. So like I honestly don't know what people would expect. Like he was never going to score like 20 goals a season as you might expect with the number 9 shirt and a £40 million price tag. So I think we've changed our formation now, and I think we can finally start seeing the best out of Joe Linton. But if we had someone like Wesley or something like that up top and allowed
that would definitely help.
And allowed Joe Linton to go onto the left with Maximin right and Almiron or a Jack Grealish in number 10 or a John McGinn. Like you would see the best out of him, and you would see why we spent a lot of money on him. He's probably still not £40 million worth, but you would see why he's a top player.
Yeah, I think I can definitely relate to you there in terms of, Wesley and Villa strikers, because they're very similar players, put it that way. And I think when he was in Belgium, Wesley, he played 2 up top. So why haven't we adopted that question? Just quickly going back to Joe Linton, who's to blame? Because you mentioned there about him playing out on the left wing out in Hoffenheim, and when Steve Bruce was in charge at Villa, he often played players out of position all the time. And then also, could you argue that recruitment is a problem as well for not bringing in someone else to support him?
I think fingers could be pointed at a lot of people. I think possibly Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley are possibly the 2 biggest villains. Like we were meant to be getting him last January, just after we broke the transfer record for Almiron, but apparently Rafa Benitez didn't want him. But once we got rid of Rafa, Joe Linton came in. So I think that was very much a Mike Ashley signing. I think he thought he maybe would have getting profit off of him, bring him in and sell him for 60, 70 million in a couple of years' time. But I think Steve Bruce is a puppet at Newcastle. I don't think he claims to have control of the team, but I think Newcastle is very, very much run by Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley. And if he's put that much money into his pocket, he's going to want to see him play week in, week out. Like he's going to want to see what he paid that money for. Whoever slapped the number 9 shirt on his back once shot, because that was a huge, huge mistake. Number 9 shirt, a lot of pressure, club record signing. It's ridiculous. It's weighed really, really heavy on him, and that's why he's only got 2 goals, and particularly playing in the formation that will have the defensive formation on his own, up top, out of position. It was just never, ever going to work. So whether it was the recruitment, the coaching, Steve Bruce, Mike Ashley, I don't know, but somebody's got to hold their hands up and say they were wrong. So going into next season, if we can just write the season off, whether Bruce is still the manager or not, if we can play in a bit more of an attacking formation, like a 4-2-3-1 or whatever, and play Joe Linton on the left in his right position, we can really, really start to see a great player.
Yeah, hopefully we can see more of that from both of our strikers next season. And yeah.
Now, obviously, Jack Grealish is likely to probably be away in the summer. He's got a lot of the top teams sniffing around him, and particularly with Villa getting relegated potentially, John McGinn as well. Is there anybody else that you'd really, really like to keep hold of if you do become a championship team next season?
I think, obviously that's a worst case scenario, but I do think that having seen Wesley and both Samatta play, I think they'd tear up the championship.
Yeah.
And so
that's why Gale tears up the championship.
Yeah, that just proves what type of league it is. And obviously we've been there before. I think if we go down, Dean Smith has to be kept. He's proven he can get us out, so we shouldn't change it in that sense. And you know, there are players in there like Tyrone Mings, Jack Grealish, John McGinn, who will probably move on to bigger clubs. The matter of the fact is, Jack Grealish is a Champions League player, and Villa are years away from that. They're nowhere near that. So either way, there'll be a time, and whether it's the end of this season, who knows, depending on what league there is, whether we know Jack Grealish and Aston Villa side. And it pains me to say that, but that's a fact. Yeah.
All right, cheers, mate. It's been a pleasure having you on. We'll leave your link in the description below. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, mate.
You gave a score prediction in your video. You said 2-1 Villa.
Yeah, sticking with that. It's a must-win for Villa. And, you know, it's a massive in terms of our relegation fight. You mentioned that if we don't win tomorrow, we may as well throw in the towel. I wouldn't like to see that from a Villa fan's point of view, but I do think it would be very worrying if we do not win tomorrow. So it's a must-win. I hope Dean Smith and Villa come up with something brand new. I mentioned about the formation and the systems in my video, so go and check that out if you haven't already, Newcastle fans. It's a great insight. And yeah, thank you for having me on and having a chat. It's a pleasure chatting about all things Newcastle and Villa. Thank you, mate.
Not a problem, Jude. Anytime. Go check out Jude's channel. Subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Subscribe to the Magpie Channel TV and enjoy yourself.
Thank you. Up the Villa.